Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about for loops. So what for loops does? For loop allows the same operation to be performed for each element in a list, one after another. And this is useful for iteration over a data set, for example. Okay, so what was the while loop? What's the difference between while loop and for loop? For while loop, we say until a certain condition applies, continue the loop. But for loop, it says during this boundary, until we have some element in a boundary, do this or continue this. So while loop breaks as soon as the condition does not apply anymore. But for loop breaks whenever the loop reaches the end point of a boundary. Okay, so we one time I remember we talked about what is that conversion, the Fahrenheit degree to Celsius, Celsius to Fahrenheit. So now we want to do the same thing. If you remember, we had same thing for while loop. I want to first write the while loop. I said while the condition is less than, for example, 120. Let me make this negative 10. 120. Then print, actually convert the Fahrenheit 9/5 multiplies to C plus 32, and then print C equal to plus str of C, and then plus Fahrenheit equal to plus str Fahrenheit. So if you remember, we had something like this, right? And then at each point we incremented the degree by 4, right? So what happens here, we are going to have all the conversion starting from C equal -10 and convert it to Fahrenheit, print all of them down until it reaches 120, for example. Let me make this 50 so it's shorter. So until the Celsius reaches 50, and then it's not going to go further. So until we have this condition applied and the Celsius degree is less than or equal to 50, the loop is going to work, right? And give us output. But so if we want to do the same thing for the for loop, we would say for C in, let's see, -10, -6. Do you remember, this is the list, and I am making bracket like this. This is the list: 6, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26, 30, 34, 38, 42, 46, and 50. So these are all the list of Celsius degree that you see listed here, right? I want to create a loop that goes through this list for each single element, it's going to calculate this value. So remember, for loop also you are going to have colons, have indentation, and you are going to write down the statement, and you are going to print out the result, right? So what happens now? We will see. Actually, now it's printing the final result. How can I print for each result? If I make this print inside the loop, for each element, it's going to print for me like this. So what happens? C first starts with the beginning of this list, then says, okay, now C is equal -10. Let's calculate this. Let's print out the result. Then next, C is equal -6. Let's do all of this and then go to the next one. C equal -2, C equal 2, until C is equal 50. Then we'll convert the Fahrenheit, Celsius to Fahrenheit, print out the result, and done. So it goes through each element of list and will print out the result for us. Okay, so do you remember range? Let me again write down, for example, if range is equal to range of 0 to 10, print range. So we should actually use the list, right? I forgot that. So we should use list, and then it will list all the elements, right? So remember, this starts with 0, the beginning. If I change this to 2, it's going to start from 2, right? And then 10 is going to be excluded. So let me write down. 10 is excluded. 0 is the beginning. You can change 0 and 10 as you like. So you can change it to any other values. So let's see what is the type of this range. So obviously should be list, right? Because I created a list ranging from 0 to 9, right? So what if I want the 10 to be included? So I should say 10 plus 1, right? Correct? If I say 10 plus 1, then 10 is included. So this is the way we can mention the last digits in the list. And why do I do this? Because sometimes I say for the length of the whole data set, and then the length of data set will be 10, right? And then range is going to create numbers up to 9, and then missing my last value in the data set. So by doing this, by mentioning length of data set plus 1, we are going to include the length of my data set and last number in the data set, right? Okay, so let me create some other range values. So as a practice, because we are going to use range a lot for loop. Okay, so let's say 9, -1. So let's see what happens if I do this. It's going to print nothing for me because 9 is greater than -1, right? So let's say 11, then we have something. And then let's say -1 and the distance is -1. Let's see what happens. Now it's going to work. So what's going to do, it's going to start with 9, subtract it from 1, because this one is the distance, right? The last one. So let's change this to -9, then you will see what happens. A list of numbers from 9 to -9 subtracted by 1. -9 is excluded. Subtracted, each element is subtracted by 1 because I have -1, right? And then look at this. If I start with -9 and then positive, and then let's see what happens here. Now we have nothing, right? And then +1 will give me all the numbers in this way. Okay, so now this may give you an idea how you can even reverse a set, right? In this way, this can create the inverse of numbers for you. Okay, so let's go through the for loop. Let me bring the example for you, and we can start our for loop. Okay, so now, so the example, I'm going to create a list let's LSD list, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I'm going to print LST to see what I have. Good, everything is fine. Now I'm going to say for I in this one, then just something so simple. Print LST of I. So what this one is going to do, for I in the list, it's going to go through the list and then print each element of list for us in this way. So, oh, the index is out of range. Why? Because now it's going to start from 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10, right? And then it's going to put 10 here for us, right? And then list index 10 is outside of the boundary, right? So let's do this. Now we fix the problem. So what happens here now? So for I in the list, what we have in the list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, all of these. So I can be 1, 2, 3 up to 10, right? And then I will come here. For I equal 1, it's going to print for me list of, here, for I equal 1, it prints list 1 minus 1, which is list 0, right? Correct? This is the most simplest one. And instead of list, I could just copy paste all of this here, right? And I would have the same thing. So either we can define it before or here. And then now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to bring it here. and then write down for I in range of 0 to length of LST, LST of I equal LST of I plus 1, and then print LST. Let's see what happens here. So what happens? So we have a list, right? We know our list is 1 to 10, right? It's going to create a range of numbers. What is this range of number? This will be a list starting from 0 to, what is the length of LST? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, right? Up to 10. So the length of LST is 10. So now we have another list starting from 0. And then it's going to put the, let's wait. Okay, so what happens? Range of 0 to 10. Range of 0 to 10. Range of 0 to 10 actually is going to be a list of 0 to 9. Why? Let me show you now. List of range 0 to 10. 10 is going to be excluded, right? So we have 0 to 9. Okay, so we have a range of 0 to 9 numbers. And then now, for I, when I is equal 0, LST of 0 is going to be equal to LST of 0 plus 1. What is the LST of 0? It's 1, right? And then 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, right? That's why the result of first element in the list became 2. So what I'm going to do here to make it more clear, I'm going to create the amount of LST plus 1 here. And then I'm going to create another print. Oops, what happened? And then this is going to be the amount of only LST, right? And it's going to print each of them for us. And then for each loop, because I don't want everything be so crowded and messy, I'm going to do this. So what else I'm going to do actually, I'm going to print out the value of I itself. So then we see, okay, here. So now what happens? For I in range of this, first I is equal 0, then LST of I is 2, right? LST of 0 is 2. LST of 0 is 2. And then LST of 0 plus 1 is equal to 3. Okay, what I am missing here? Because LST, the 0th element of list should be 1, right? And then let's go through all of them to see what's going on. What's that? I is equal 9, and then this one is 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, now I'm missing something. Let me think and see what exactly happened, because the list I created is 1 to 10, right? Okay, that was the best mistake ever. Look what I am doing here. I'm printing the I value, which is correct. I'm printing this one, which is correct. Printing this one, all of them are correct. But where do I print this? I'm printing this one exactly after the change has been made. So what is the change? The change is updating the list, right? The list after update is not the initial list I had. So what we are going to do, we are going to cut this, put this here. So I want to see what is the I want to see what is the element I in the list, initial list I had, right? Then I want to see now when LST list adds, element of I in the list increments by 1, what is the value, right? So we are already updating, so I don't have to add it here. I'm going to just write down. So now after update, give me the value of element I in the list. Now everything will be correct. Okay, so now it's good. Now I is equal 0, right? So correct, it goes to the range. I is 0, the minimum I is 0, maximum I is 9. Let's see. Yes, everything is fine. And then now for I equals 0, the element 0 of the list, initial list, is 1. And then after we increment this element by 1, the value becomes 2. Correct. Now when I is equal to 2, then we will see the element I is 2. Element 1 of the list is 2. And then incrementing by 1, it's becoming 3. Okay, everything is really good. And then what we are going to get as an outcome, we are going to get the updated list, which is 2, 3, 4, and 11. Means 1 element added to each of them and change the element in place. Okay, so let's have another example. We want to do the same example here we had, Celsius, Fahrenheit, in kind of a little bit different way. Okay, so I'm going to list all the numbers from negative 10 to, let's say, 40 by 5. So you know what is this, right? Let me print this for you so you know. These are all the number from negative 10. Can I even print this, copy this? Okay, I think I can. Okay, so these are the number, right? So what I want to do, I want to say for I in range of length of C, range of 0 to, actually this one is exactly same as writing down range of 0 to length, right? These both are exact same. Okay, so I want to have I values from zero to 9, right? Just creating 0 to 9. right? Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to say C is equal to C of I. So this is the new C for us. And I'm going to write down Fahrenheit is equal to 9/5 multiplies to C plus 32, and then I'm going to, let's go up and get the print from here, saves time. Right, so what happens here? So I get the I value 0. I say the Celsius is C of 0, which is -10, right? And then I'm going to calculate the Fahrenheit based on this one. And then I'm going to print the result, right? And then again, I'm going to go through the second I. So I is from 0 to 9. And then it will go through all of them, calculate the C, calculate the F, print out the result. Let's see. So this is the way it works. Oh, okay. So I copied C, don't do that. Why do I copy, really? So I'm going to print out CS. This is the value of Celsius, right? I had C, so what it did, it printed the whole list for me. So let's do this again. Good, now it shows what we are exactly doing. So this is another way of calculating Celsius Fahrenheit, the same example, by using list, range, and then len of C. Okay, so another example. Let me see what I have. Okay, so let's do something like, let's say we have an initial value 1 and we want to do for x in range 0 to 5, print. Well, I never like that they say for x in this range. I and j makes more sense, and I'm used to that. Okay, so this one will be so simple. First of all, let me just do this and show you what happens here. This one says for I in range of 0 to 5, and you know 5 is excluded, right? So this is going to be values, right, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then it's going to print I. So now you will see all the I is listed here in this way. We can have an example of, let's say I have a dictionary and I have some information like London is a key, and then temperature is like 14, and then I say like Albuquerque, and then the temperature is 20, and I'm saying New York, then temperature is 18. I don't know, I'm just saying something. California, temperature is 40. I mean, just creating some fake data set. Okay, so for key in dictionary, so what are the key are London, Albuquerque, all those cities, right? Print key let's see what happens. And as you see, it's going to print all the keys, right? Then I can do this in another way. I can say for key in dictionary dot keys. Do you remember dot keys gives us dictionaries? This one gives the key of dictionary, and then print key. So it will be the same thing, right? And then I'm going to print out n, so we have a gap between these two, right? Between these two for loop. So the same thing will happen. And here similarly we can do this, right? So as you see, the same thing happens. And then what else I can do? Do you remember values? Let's see if I'm right. Okay, good, I'm right. So it's values. So for values in dictionary, values, it's going to give you the value of dictionary, right? Extracting the values of the dictionary. I'm going to have another n here, and then I'm going to write down a subject for this like this. And then I'm going to create a subject for this, extracting the keys of dictionary. And then here also I'm going to say extracting the keys of dictionary. Okay, good. So now we see that. Okay, so what it does, it's going to get the values, for example, and for the first one, it's going to print this one. For the second one, print the second one. For the third one in the value, it's going to print the third values, and so on. And then we can do something else. We can say for key and value. This is tuple, right? In dictionary, this is a new one. So for the two, both of I and J, for example. So we are going to go through dictionaries items, if you remember. Then we are going to print key. We are going to print value, but let's make it better to understand. The key is this one plus the value is this one and plus. And then because this is value, let's make it like a string, and I'm going to have print this in another line, so we have a kind of gap between each of the printed value. This is the way it works. So we can have two values, right? Two items, I and J, for example. Okay, you know what? Let me write down I. Let me write down J, and then show you what happens here in this case. Let's see. So similar thing, right? So here it knows that our dictionary has two items, two actually part. One part is going to be key, another part is value, right? So now I just call them I and J instead of value and key. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep all of them the way it was, right? And then I'm going to copy this here, and instead of them I'm writing down I and J, I and J, right? That's it. Okay, so what else? I'm going to talk about break also after this. So we are going to talk about break. So the break keyword jumps directly out of a loop, right? So how it works, let's go back to the while loop. So if I have x equals 6 while true, while the condition is true, print x, right? And then now let's increment x by 1, and then we say if x is equal 3, as soon as, so we have 6, right? As soon as all of this happens and loop is going on and subtracting 1 from each of value, and as soon as it reach 3, what happens? We are going to say if we reach 3, actually it's going to be indented. Why it's not indenting? Okay, now it's indenting. We are going to use break. So this is the situation for the time that we have on, what's that, infinite loop. It's going to go on and on and on, and then we need to stop it at some point, right? We are going to use break to break the while loop and say, okay, if something like this happened in between, at that point you can break the loop. If I don't have this, what happens? It's going to start with 6, subtract from 1, subtract from 1, go through the while loop over and over and over, and it never stops. So here, if I don't make this condition and break the while loop never stops. So it will be infinite loop. Okay, so let's see what happens. Then, oh, actually, let me print something here. Print stopped. See, I didn't have comma. Okay, so what happens? Oh, actually, let's bring this here. Do you see that this is red? Because it's not indented properly. So now it's going to break and it's going to stop, right? So it's going to print x value 6, 5, 4, then x is equal 3, stops, and then it will come out of the loop. So this is the break for while loop, and then there is a continue also. Let's see how continue works. Continue keyword skips to the end of the current loop iteration. So continue. So what continue does? Let's say x is equal to 8 while true, x increments, oops, this is not increment, okay, this is increments, decrement. So I'm subtracting, this one is decrement too, decrement. This is decrement too, right? Okay, so while true, it's going to decrement if x is equal 3. Let's break the loop, and then elif, if you remember, elif x is equal 6, then continue, and then we are going to print x value at this point, and then print finished, right? Let's see what happens. So x is equal to 8. While true, x is going to decrement by 1, so we have 7, and we know the condition is not true, so it doesn't break. But this condition, is it true? Still not true. So what happens? It's going to print x, and then we'll go back, and then x was 7, right? And now x is going to again decrement to 6. If x is equal 3, which is not, we are going to jump. If x is equal 6, it's going to continue. So it's going to continue. That's why it didn't print. That's why it didn't print x equals 6, right? And then continues, right? And then we'll jump this one. And then it goes back. So now it's going to decrement. Now 6 becomes 5. This one doesn't apply. This one doesn't apply. Print the x, right? So 5 is being printed. Then go back. Decrement 1, x is 4. So this one doesn't apply. This one doesn't apply. Print x equal 4. Decrement to 1. X becomes 3. Break the loop. Jumps to print, and we'll finish the loop. Okay, so this was the for loop, and we are still working on which chapter? Chapter 4. This was the last topic, I think, in chapter 4. Okay, so let me know if you have any question, and I will come back with another video. Take care of yourself.